Agent Teska's breath catches in his throat as the trunk pops open, his service weapon rattling in his clammy palm. He can't believe what he's seeing. It's awful. No, it's worse. It's impossible. In his free hand, he's still holding his cell phone up to his ear. The voice speaks again. "You know what must be done, Agent Teska," it says. Teska grips the revolver tighter. His heart races. This isn't what he wanted. But now, he doesn't have a choice. All because of SCP-6205. Pay close attention. This is a story about an incredibly strange murder. A murder that took place at Site-19, the SCP Foundation's largest containment facility. As best we can tell, this all began when an intelligence operative named Andrei Teska experienced a bizarre happening while working for the FBI. More specifically, he was a key analyst in the organization's domestic terror task force. His particular focus was a violent white supremacist organization known as the Arcane Knights of the New Confederacy. FBI agent Teska had been listening to their phone tap records and monitoring online purchases for months now, and he was starting to get exhausted with the endless repetitive chatter. Guns, drugs, racial slurs, rinse and repeat. Until one day, he heard something extremely strange. The Arcane Knights of the New Confederacy seemed to be summoning a demon. At first, he thought it was almost laughable, but their online activity and phone logs painted a clear picture that they truly were attempting to summon an ancient supernatural creature from some kind of forbidden text. As their plans advanced, Agent Teska realized that he needed to tell his superiors at the FBI. Sure, he didn't believe that demons existed, but what if they did? Surely it was better to be safe than sorry, right? His superiors didn't agree. In fact, they thought it was so stupid that Teska even brought it up. Soon he became something of a laughingstock with his department. People even started calling him Demon Dre, much to his frustration. He knew that in one decision he'd set his career back years. He'd been passed over for every promotion and commendation, because who would ever want to promote Demon Dre? But while his decision to report the demonic entity got him ridiculed at the FBI, it made another far more clandestine three-letter agency extremely interested in him. We're speaking, of course, of the SCP Foundation, whose field agents were embedded in the Bureau. They used the intelligence that Agent Teska had gathered to perform their own raid against the Arcane Knights of the New Confederacy, and found that everything that he had proposed was all too horrifyingly true. The terroristic group had indeed gathered the thaumaturgic knowledge and artifacts to summon a powerful demon from the Eighth Circle. They had even written plans to use the terrible creature to attack a Jewish cultural center during Passover. Mobile Task Force agents were able to engage the skinhead sorcerers in a tense firefight, which ended in several members of the gang being killed. The rest were taken into Foundation custody, where they would be debriefed, given amnestics, and returned to the normal prison system. If it wasn't for the work that Agent Teska did, many innocents would have lost their lives. Foundation agents approached Andrei Teska and brought him to a secure location, where they gave him knowledge that would change his life forever. The supernatural was real, and the SCP Foundation was the secret group that fought against them. Agent Teska now had two choices. He could deny what was being offered to him. He would be given drugs that would make him forget any of this, and he could go back to being Demon Dre around the offices of the FBI. Or he could quit the FBI, join the SCP Foundation, and use his nose for the supernatural to save more lives and be actually appreciated for it. To someone with Teska's Save the World ambition, it was really no question at all. At the SCP Foundation, he was undeniably doing good in the world, but somehow he still felt unfulfilled. He may have been holding the line against the literal forces of darkness in the world, but he was still doing it from a desk in a large, dark office in the middle of a nondescript building. He felt satisfaction in being a small but useful cog in a beneficial machine, but he still dreamed of being a real hero out on the front lines, and he could think of one way to change that. Aaron Graham cowers underneath a desk as chaos unfolds all around him. SCP-682 has breached containment. and broken into the analytics department, chasing down and devouring anyone who wasn't able to find a hiding place. He could hear those monstrous reptilian footsteps around him, followed by an occasional human scream, then the sickening crunch. Another space in the department that would need to be filled after this. After the initial massacre, the monster starts flipping desks, looking for more morsels to devour. Aaron can feel fear coursing through him as the presence of 682 grows closer. It can't end like this. Nellie will never know what happened, and as he prays for his life, his prayers are answered. As a mobile task force kicks in the door and barges in, peppering 682 with high stopping power gunfire, and in the process, giving him just enough time to run out of the room and escape. The most messed up part of all of this? It's not even the first time this has happened. Aaron Graham was also an analyst for the SCP Foundation, but a data analyst. It's kind of like being a regular data analyst, except occasionally you had to hide from escaped monsters rampaging through the office. It was a deeply important job, but a job with a problem. It didn't pay very well. Sure, plenty of jobs don't pay well, but the poor salary of the SCP Foundation data analysis position had a real cost for Aaron Graham. His dear pet Labrador, Nellie, was suffering from cancer, and the only way to save her life would be a series of risky and expensive surgeries. Surgeries that Aaron Graham couldn't afford to pay for if he still wanted to keep a roof over his head and keep both of them fed. So in order to save Nellie's life, Aaron made a difficult decision. He was going to steal from his employers, one of the most powerful organizations in the world. Not a heist, of course. As a data analyst, he was too smart and too conservative to do that. Instead, he decided to be subtle about it, embezzling by degrees, stealing a little here, a little there. Over the course of several months, he'd be able to steal $13,000 and save Nellie's life, and nobody would be any the wiser. He didn't feel good about it, of course, but with his dog's life on the line, he'd do anything he needed to save her, even if it ruined his career. Not that they'd ever be able to catch him anyway. He was so brilliant at covering his tracks, fastidious in the way only a level 2 data analyst could be. And he was right. The Foundation never did spot Aaron, but sadly for him, something far more dangerous was watching him closely at every step. But back to Agent Teska. He wasn't willing to let his childhood dreams die out this time. He'd spoken to friends in the mess hall at lunch who were field agents. He had heard all about their high-octane gunfights with thaumaturgists firing deadly mimetic blasts at them, or the times they got monsters into headlocks and held on for dear life while waiting for reinforcements. That was what he wanted. No more pen monkeying or desk jockeying, and he told them exactly that. They suggested that he train up for the yearly field exam, and if he passed it, he could join them in the exciting and incredibly high mortality rate world of being an SCP Foundation field agent. He signed up for the exam and read about the training rubric, the knowledge, the physical, the weapons test. He'd do whatever he needed to do in order to ace it all. He hit every book in the Foundation library, gathering as much data about defeating the anomalous firsthand as possible. He bought a gym membership and started working out several times a week. He started getting advice from his field agent coworkers, and of course, he hit the firing range every single day. He expended hundreds of rounds of 9mm handgun ammunition in bettering his aim and getting used to the recoil. But in doing all of this, he made a terrible mistake. On his monthly earning reports, he decided to declare the money he spent on all of those bullets as a business expense. After all, it was the furtherance of career progression, right? That meant it fell under the purview of an SCP Foundation expense. And that's precisely where he was wrong. Not long after filing this expense report, he received a mysterious call from an unknown number. The man on the other end had a calm, even-toned voice with a British accent. Strange. The voice, as polite as could be, said, "Agent Teska, it has come to our attention that you're claiming deductions for the costs associated with your personal firearm. And while that is perfectly fine, you have to be able to prove that the handgun is an ordinary and necessary expense for your line of work." Of course, Teska argued that it was necessary. He was going to be an agent soon. He needed that ammunition to train for the examination. But the mysterious voice was having none of that. He wasn't a field agent yet, and until he was, this was a fraudulent expense. Thankfully, the voice had a suggestion for Teska on how to make all this right. Promote yourself, sir. Do something that's unquestioningly fieldwork in order to justify the expense. Create an emergent need. The voice gave him several days to rectify the situation, and in 7 days to the minute, the mysterious figure called Teska back. The voice took on a more threatening tone this time, implying that some negative consequence would befall Teska if he didn't make this right. The intelligence analyst and aspiring field agent was aghast. Are you threatening me? The voice remained calmed as it replied. No, sir, this is just basic accounting. If we don't resolve this misappropriation, then it'll appear on next month's sheets as an outstanding item. You wouldn't want that, would you? To make extra work for your friends in payroll? I can justify the expense for you if you'll let me. I'll do 99% of the work for you. Does that sound good? Teska knew that this voice was malevolent, and that whatever it wanted him to do, it wouldn't be good. But what options did he have anymore? He knew on some level that the voice wasn't the actual accounting department of the SCP Foundation, but even so, it seemingly had incriminating information on him. His career, the thing he'd built his entire life around, was hanging in the balance here. The voice had him by the throat, but something else was in a much worse position, or at least was about to be. Aaron Grant's scheme had seemingly gone off without a hitch. He'd skimmed $13,000 from the SCP Foundation, and he had paid for all of Nellie's expensive surgeries. And wonderfully, they'd been successful. Nellie was in remission. She was going to live. And as a result, Aaron Graham wouldn't need to steal anymore. But in the eyes of a certain mysterious figure, the damage had already been done. Restitution would have to be paid, but mere money wouldn't cut it anymore after the betrayal that Graham had committed against his employers. Two forces were about to collide. In the middle of the night, while Aaron was tucked in bed, Nellie asleep at his feet, he felt the door open, and some unknowable force entered the room. After pulling another in a long line of late nights, Agent Teska left work, only to reach his car and hear something bumping in the trunk. After popping the lid, he screamed in horror. A man he did not know, but we know as Aaron Graham, was bound and gagged in his trunk. At that moment, he received a call from his mysterious harasser. Why is there someone in my trunk? Excellent timing, Mr. Teska. His name is unimportant to you, but this is one of your co-workers. He's been embezzling money for the better part of 6 months, but he's going to help make up for it by justifying the maintenance, training, and use of your sidearm. Take him out of the boot, throw him to the ground, and shoot him. The restraints I use will not leave any ligature marks, so you can remove them afterwards and dispose of them before you call this in. Perfectly explainable self-defense. As Teska looked down at the man bound and gagged in the trunk, tears streaming down his face, he thought about his job, his life. Was there any way he could throw it all away now for the life of a stranger? It seemed like such a good idea at the time. Teska steadied his breath and lowered the phone. The conversation was over. Whatever came next, it was already decided. He leaned into the trunk, looming over the terrified man curled inside. Aaron Graham's eyes widened in fear. A report would later read, in the morning hours of 2015-08-20, a Level 2 data analyst was fatally wounded in the parking structure of Site 19. The analyst was shot in the torso 3 times with 9mm ammunition, consistent with that issued by the Foundation. A ballistic match as well as various forensic evidence collected at the scene was able to connect the homicide with Foundation intelligence analyst Andrei Teska, who was arrested by Site 19 security and questioned. All of this was the work of SCP-6205. What exactly is this anomaly, capable of running circles around members of the SCP Foundation and even inducing them to murder one another? The truth is, nobody really knows. It's a pataphysical, reality-warping entity that has, for reasons unknown, attached itself to the SCP Foundation accounting department. It manifests only as mysterious phone calls that can reach anybody, from the lowest staffer to the O5 Council, or letters on an ever-changing letterhead. And whenever it notices that people have been cooking the books, scraping a little off the top, or even declaring fallacious business expenses on their company cards, it will often respond with severe measures. Letting it have its way is the only way to contain it, which also comes with the benefit that the SCP Foundation has saved a lot of money on attempted accounting fraud. So as long as your transactions are all looking legitimate, you have nothing to fear. But if you do find yourself receiving a call about your financial record keeping from a mysterious voice, don't try to lie to it. It already knows everything. Now check out SCP-5049 The Skin Salesman, Demon Dan's Discount Homunculus Depot, or Who Killed SCP-5002, A Death in Containment, for more.